one problem I did have is I kind of, aside from the setting, aside from the hiss, because I'm aware of that and I'm aware of control, I would have liked to see a little bit more feeding into that. And I get where Remedy are coming from. They want accessibility. They want players to just be able to pick up and go and not have to question it. I would have loved, maybe I'm being a bit harsh on this, I would have loved some sort of Helldivers type tutorial, a little bit tongue-in-cheek, kind of going, like, you're the Firebreak team, you're our first and last line of defense, and here's a bucket and spade, go figure it out.
Look, they show you getting picked up from the office upstairs. They put you in your suit.
Yeah. Hi everybody and welcome to High Scores High Stakes Game of the Month Club for June 2025. I'm your host, sometimes Tomahawk, and with me are not Mr. Lava Lava and not Cardinal Smith.
No, much better looking people, thankfully.
Definitely, a much younger demographic we're hitting today, guys.
I don't know if you are really with me, but with Darren, yes, definitely a younger demographic.
I'm not even 30.
Oh, yeah. This is different. I don't like that. Anyway, yes, you may know Darren and Josh from the former DiscCount Pod. The guys are still doing bits on the internet anyway, so all their stuff will be in the episode description at least anyway. How are we doing, guys? Thank you so much for jumping in on this Game of the Month record. We've had a bit of a schedule shift. If you aren't aware, this isn't the last Monday of the month, so we're having to bring Game of the Month forward.
Thanks. I mean, I wish it was the last Monday of the month, but I'll take it. I'll take it.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the wonder of podcasting. You can listen to this at any point. You could listen to this on the 30th of June, and it will be the last Monday of the month. So that is the beautiful thing anyway. So what we'll do, Josh and Darren, we're here to discuss Federal Bureau of Control Firebreak. But before we do that, before we get into the conversation, we'll get a little bit of the housekeeping done. So if this is your first episode of High Scores, High Stakes, welcome in. If this is your 115th, 116th episode, you'll know this by now, but we are usually three friends playing three PlayStations in multiple gaming challenges. The winner getting 3 points, second place getting 2 points, and third place getting 1 point at the end of the regulation season of 12 weeks. The winner with the most points goes home with the coveted High Scores High Stakes Cup. Usually then, outside of our regular season, we go into our side quest, we talk about anything and everything gaming, and then, as I said, the last Monday of every month, we discuss our Game of the Month game, this month being the FBC Firebreak. And if 60 minutes plus or so is not enough High Scores High Stakes content for you, you could always check out highscoreshighstakes.com. That'll take you a link to everywhere we are on the internet, be it Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, YouTube, and our Discord server. So that's all done and dusted. That is all finished, fine, and wrapped up. I think what we should do is we should have a wee chat about FBC Firebreak.
I mean, that's why we're here.
That's exactly, yes, that's it. I mean, we're in an interesting position in this one now because as at time of record, the game only came out yesterday. So we've had to do a little bit of a intense playthrough on this one.
What was nice, it came out yesterday at 11 a.m. as well, British Standard Time. And the reason for that is because they, like most games, they want a nice 1 p.m. release date. But because they're based in Finland, 1 p.m. for them is 11 a.m. for us. So rather than us getting like a 9 a.m. or a weird like 5 p.m. for Pacific Standard Time, we got a Finland-based release, which is fun.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. It's one of those moments. Sam Lake knows what he's doing. I'm never going to judge that man at all, but it was a beautiful situation because I just had one eye on the PlayStation app, and the second that I saw it go live, it was download the console, let's get this party started, because this is a game I've really, really been excited to play for one reason or another. Now, I adore the Control universe, I adore Alan Wake, everything that Remedy have done. And this is a lovely little change in pace there. First-person shooter, live action, live service multiplayer game. Just all new territory, I think, going forward, isn't it?
Very much, yeah. And I don't think this is a big thing to say, but I don't think Remedy have really had a miss yet in all their games that they've released. They've all been fairly solid entries. I mean, financially, potentially a miss, but I don't think any of their games are particularly poor. They're all really good games.
That's it, yeah.
I think a lot of them are also their own thing, aren't they? Like, they don't miss, but they're not, as you say, they're not like these smash hits. They're nice. They always feel...
It's like niche. A cult classic and or a masterpiece. Like, it's commercially, as you say, Josh, it's not commercially sound, but these games like resonate with a lot of people. Like Alan Wake, they spaced 13 years between the two games, really, and they were just like, well, we just took our time with it. We weren't too fussed. And as you said yesterday, when we were playing Firebreak, they kind of just dropped the DLC out of the blue. They didn't really need to. Nobody really asked for it, and they just thought, well, let's just feed little bits of information, a little bits of narrative out to everybody, really. And as you say, money doesn't seem to be an issue to them commercially. But here we are. We've got ourselves what felt like a shadow drop announcement. I think this was like last year, maybe 18 months ago, was when I first saw the trailer for Firebreak.
Around then, I think it was, yeah. I think it's when they first sort of announced it was coming out.
Yeah, it was a really, really interesting one because I think I remember seeing... It was a lot of just pulsing music, this kind of old Gods of Asgard vibe from Control and Alan Wake. And then you started seeing elements of the Bureau. And I genuinely thought we were getting... This was like the one more thing. I thought we were getting Control 2. I thought this was the announcement. This was it. And then next thing you know, I'm seeing water cannons being shot at people. I'm seeing fire. I'm seeing first person shooting aspect. And I'm like, what is this? And I think I was hooked initially from that.
It was interesting because it came out sort of the same time they were announcing things like Marathon and they were announcing Concord, like all of these sort of like first person live service, like group shooters, but with different twists were all coming out at the same sort of time. And it was easy for it to sort of disappear into the background. I think quite a few people forgot about this. I know you obviously were excited, Tomahawk, and it was on my radar, but I think it's sort of one of those games that people seem to have just let slide into the hiss.
I'll say for me especially, I was one of those people. My experience with the Remedy games is I never like hunt them down. They come into my awareness. I'm like, oh, cool, another Remedy game. Lovely. But this was much the same. Like, I saw it, went, oh, interesting, forgot all about it. And then they announced, like, oh, it's, coming to, like, subscription services day one. I'm like, oh, cool. Yeah. I'll play that. Great.
That's it. It's funny because when it came on to like PlayStation Plus and Game Pass, and it's like, oh, it's free to play, and then Remedy are like, no. This is not free to play. This is you're paying for everything. That is the market these days now. But just funny you say about your experience on with Remedy games. We usually do a whole section about what's your experience with the game, but as the game's only been out a day, it's kind of hard to kind of gauge that. So I will ask the question, guys. Is Remedy as a universe, all sort of broad strokes, then what is the general experience then we have with these games then?
Do you want to go first, Darren? I can see you.
I'll go first. I have less to say. I played Control first. I think I played it when it came onto PS Plus just because I'd heard good things about it. It looked interesting. I feel like I bounced off it initially and then was like in after that. Fully in. Into the weirdness. Yeah. And then I played Alan Wake actually for DiscCount. It was bought for me for the episode to play Alan Wake. And I had a confusing experience with it, is how I describe it. But I think that is how Remedy games are.
Yeah,
I spent my time playing. I think I say this on the episode. People can go dig it out from
I'll put it in the description below as well.
Like, I couldn't work out if it was trying to be serious or silly. And every time I felt it was going one way, I wanted it to do more.
Oh, it's definitely a bit of column A, a bit of column B in that instance. It's so tongue-in-cheek, yeah.
I enjoyed a lot of the game. It's like, if you're going to be silly, be silly. If you're going to be serious, be serious. But I enjoyed my time with it. And then I haven't sort of got around to 2 yet. It is the peak game that I would have taken off Josh when he beat it, had it not been digital only.
Yes. Yeah,
it's true. They're very true.
I got a lot more. I think I got a lot more experience than you, Darren. I suppose.
Yeah.
I mean, my first foray was Max Payne, the original one, ages ago on PS2, and then I never played Max Payne 2, but I did play Alan Wake when it came out on the 360, and then I also went back to it on the remastered edition. Control I've also played, Alan Wake 2 I've also beaten, and now Firebreak. Like the only ones I haven't really touched, like the Death Rally games they've made and Quantum Break.
Okay,
like I've never gone near those, but it's not. I don't touch them. It's just I think more those were Death Rally. I have no idea what it was really, but Quantum Break was the Xbox One at the time. It came out on that platform, so it didn't come out onto PlayStation. So it's just something that missed me entirely. But I've always enjoyed them. I think, especially Alan Wake, where it's got that nice. They've all got like lovely homage to film and TV and pop culture, and that's what I really love in their games. Like Alan Wake is Twin Peaks through and through with a bit of Stephen King thrown in there, and then you got Max Payne, which is that lovely sort of noir thriller, but there's also like the weird TV's talking to you with its own film going on in the background. It's just they're clever for the sake of being clever, and I love that.
It's like Scandinavian TV drama written all over it. Really, they do that, like especially in Alan Wake 2, they do that look at the camera and they deliberately interact with you in that regard. But like in terms of my experience, I'm kind of in the same boat as yourself, Josh. I played Max Payne. I think I played Max Payne when I was too young to play Max Payne. So
this is one I've like. So I was about 10 when I started playing it. I think
10 is yeah. No, I'm the same. Very much loved the bullet time mechanic, loved that kind of stuff. But I knew the themes and the tone was a little bit dark for me at the time. I day one bought Alan Wake for the 360. Adored it. I love it for like the episodic way that the game was done. It's not something I'd ever really seen in gaming at the time. Put off playing Control for the longest time. It was one of them games it took to come to PlayStation Plus for me to go, I have to kind of jump into this now, whether or not they're tied in, how they're going to do it, whether or not they're just a separate entity. And I'm so glad I did, because it has, like, for all of Control's faults, it has one of the greatest segments in modern gaming for me. It's where you go through the corridor, the maze, towards the end of the game. You put the headphones in, and it essentially turns into a rhythm game. Fighting through the hiss. Basically just fighting through the hiss, just like listening to some tunes. It's just one of my more favorite moments in gaming recently. And then of course we've got Alan Wake 2's on the backlog burner at the minute. We will get to that eventually. That might be another game of the month for another time. But
I would argue it's their best game so far is Alan Wake 2. And that's saying quite a lot, with Control being what it is. But the difference with Alan Wake 2 and Control is I think Alan Wake 2 is far more accessible to start off with. I think, as we've all said, Control is that little bounce off at the beginning. It's like, it's so convoluted and confusing, but it is probably the most important game of all of their games, because it is the central point that links all the universes together.
It ties everything in, and it's so well done. And that kind of like brings me to like the premise. Before we get to the premise, tiny little bit of development. It's pretty non-existent. There's no controversies in terms of development for this one. I wasn't aware that it was originally announced in 2021. So they announced that they were doing a multiplayer. Yeah, they were doing a multiplayer first-person shooter. That seemed to just be it. It was announced under some project code name, and it was actually meant to be developed by 505, tie-in with the Control partnership there. And then Remedy went and purchased the franchise rights and the distribution rights and the publishing rights off 505. So this is all done Remedy in-house now. That seems to be about the height of it. They've decided that they wanted to make a super accessible first-person shooter you could just pick up and go, and that is that. And they're going to set it in the Control universe then. There isn't an awful lot of controversy in these developments, like 3 or 4 years in the making, really. That seems to be the standard for most of these games now. But where we are is, we've touched on Control, is like, so the point of the whole game is we are first responder volunteers who work for the Federal Bureau of Control, who are tasked with stopping the hiss, the omnipotent presence that has taken over the Bureau, and with it has caused havoc with a few of the AWEs, the altering world events. So they some of the game modes I think we're going to have a wee discussion on here are paper chases in particular. So we go about dispelling rogue post-it notes. And this is what I think is really good about Control, and what it does with that is that they take the mundane and they tell a beautiful story with it. And it ties in lovely with Alan Wake and the typewriter, and all these items have some sort of supernatural presence, and that supernatural presence gets contained in the bureau. It's lovely. It's a bonkers premise, and I think as the trio, we have to just neutralize the threats and maintain the status quo.
Definitely, yeah, that's it. I mean, it's but to do it, you don't need to worry about the story. This is the weird thing about this, isn't it? They don't give you any backstory with this game. They just throw you straight in there, as you said before. Like, you just get dropped in as a man wearing what looks like wellies and some tin foil, and you get given a super soaker, and off you go. And you're like,
you're so ill prepared. The characters look so ill prepared. It's like, I'm looking at the picture here now. He's in, as you say, the overalls, the rubber suit, and he's got like a welder's helmet on. So they're as ill prepared for what's happening as we are told what's happening, which I think is brilliant. Like, it does lend to that ability to just pick up and go, and you don't have to be too clued into the story. It's lovely when you are. Mm-hmm. It is really nice when you're clued into the story. It just gives you that little sense.
A great level of almost comedy when you're in the elevator before the mission starts. You're just all looking at each other in your like hacked together outfits, not quite sure what's going to happen.
No, that's it. Like, whereas Alan Wake is very dark, very somber, very serious. Control, to a degree, has a very serious sense, in sense of what they do at the Bureau. They're here to maintain order, and they stay in the shadows. They don't get too involved in the world as such. They just are, here's an evil toaster that can send black holes random places. Let's just go in and contain that hush-hush. I think circling back to Control here, one of my more favorite side bits, and then it's a blink and you miss it moment, is with the guys in the interrogation room with the fridge.
I was going to say this,
he's told he can't leave the room until, or he can't break eye contact with the fridge because something will happen.
Yeah.
And then the power cut happens, and then he meets his untimely demise. It's just bonkers. It's absolutely phenomenal stuff. But yes, development and sort of premise of the game is pretty much ticked off there. I think game modes, so because it's early doors, there's only a finite amount of I say game modes, it's more just mission parameters really. So I've wrote down the 5 that are available at the minute, and you guys need to keep me right on this because there's a couple of them that I do not remember. So firstly, we have hot fix, which the basic premise of that is you had to fix the fans and turn off the furnace.
That's it. As you go further, it's keep things cool. There's fire everywhere. Fans need to be turned on, and then the furnace needs to be stopped. That's the long run of it. Yeah.
Fire, more fire, most fire. Is that one?
That's
it. Absolutely. The next one we had was my personal favorite as well, which was Paper Chase, which again we talked about earlier, which was the rogue sticky notes. The idea is this: you have a counter, and it's like multiples of thousands, and you just have to go in and destroy these post-it notes, deal with the hordes of enemies, and in the later difficulties, you deal with the post-it note monsters, which, in terms of a villain, is incredible.
And you can become a post-it note monster as well if you get covered in too many post-it notes, as we found out.
Yes, Darren, can't you?
Twice. Yeah. The thing I loved about the post-it one was there's one we'll get to in a second, and it was the first one we played. We were like, oh, this is good. It feels a bit sort of like deep rock, like I've seen this before. The post-it one feels like nothing I've seen. It's so off the wall.
That's it. That was the real unique selling point for this on the trailers as well, because you had the water character, you had him running around hosing down all these post-it notes, and next thing you know, you had the character covered, his peripheries covered with all these post-it notes. Next thing you know, he dies and comes back as this tank made of post-it notes. It was just something, as you say, Darren, something I've never really seen before in in a game like this.
Yeah.
The next one, I think what you're alluding to then was the ground control mission.
Yes.
Now, I wasn't sure about this. I had to do a bit of a Google on YouTube on this one. This is the one where you're in the mines as such.
And you're getting leech eggs or something like that from shooting
leech eggs, that was it. This is the weird and wonderful about controllers. Like, nothing's off limits for what you have to do or what you come across on a daily basis then. Now, the last couple of ones, I don't think we played an awful lot of these in your Twitch stream then, Josh, was frequency shift, which, if I remember correctly, was just the purple goo.
Yes.
It was. Yeah, frequency shift was one where there were like cogs which were covered in goo that you had to shoot the cogs off so they could start moving, like I don't know what they were, like pistons and stuff like that around it. But again, we only played that on level 1, threat level 1 or whatever it is, and so we didn't see what the because if you go to 3 you get to that last final room, and we didn't see what that was for
the actual see what the end game is for it. No, it's interesting that with the, like, we'll come into how the leveling system works on this, but the last game mode they have was Freezer Duty, which I thought was quite a good one. It was you had to do the temporal displacements and just fire space heaters across all of these anomalies. Again, while we are dealing with hordes of hiss enemies.
I mean, they're great heaters. I mean, 3 bouts of fire coming out of them. The people would pay good money for those.
That's it, yes.
There's also something
this
very
day and age as well
about like finishing one and just heaving it over like a guardrail. Off you go.
That's it as well. And it's funny to say, and like the mechanics of the game as well, there seems to be an awful lot, and it lends itself to these characters not really being equipped for such a situation, because there's usually in a situation like this, it's like hold square to turn on. In Firebreak, it's very much a shoot it or bash it or melee it, and that's what turns it on. Just if you do damage to it, it will work.
Or quick time events with L1 and R1 in a random sequence.
You know the quick time events, like that is one of the standout features. We will come to that later on, but that mini game is just beautiful, absolutely fantastic. So we have our game modes. The leveling system, I thought, as convoluted as it felt, and the more we played into the game, definitely started to make a little bit more sense then. So essentially what we have clearance levels, threat levels, and corruption levels. The clearance levels are basically how many tiers of, or how many areas of the mission that you're going to do. So, and then you have to do the subsequent objectives in each area, fight a horde, fight a boss before going on to the next area. Or if it's an earlier level, you go back to the elevator and you extract. Very Helldivers vibe. Like, give me the entire time of this, it very much gave me that Helldivers sense throughout.
It is an extraction shooter through and through, which is what Helldivers is, and what it's. I got that. I got the Division vibes as well. Like when I was playing with a group on that, like that same sort of grabbing stuff and getting out and just trying to survive, also grabbing good stuff.
And then the corruption. We didn't really touch too much into the corruption levels, but I think given what Control is and given that universe, I think if you're a bit more leveled up and a bit more resource savvy, that could be an absolute game changer in some of the later levels. So we have the corrupted items and the frequency in which they show up throughout.
So
I had a list of them. We only came across.
Sorry, it goes from 0 to 3. So, like, that's how many corruption items will show up when you're playing it. So, if you do like one
per
level corruption, just for the entire round. So we played it on 3, which is why in each new area we've got a different corruption thing. So and you can only destroy them with a specific weapon, which is very frustrating.
Not something I realized either as well. It was only when Darren went, "Oh, I have this. That's it sorted now." It's like, oh, that was completely new to me, really.
We'll get to this a bit later, I think, but it was one of those things where it just sort of flashed across the screen for a second. It's like, oh, you need this to destroy them. I'm like, what is that, though?
That was the loading screen.
The time before. Yeah. I found it randomly the game before. It's like, oh, maybe it's that. I don't know.
Now, we came across a couple of options in the cursed items as such. We had the Chinese lantern, and we had the gas tank, and they can offer buffs or debuffs. Debuffs to the players, buffs to the enemies for the most part. Anyway, there's a good list more. I didn't realize there was as many. Okay. So you can come across. There's one here. There's a table saw which disables the shield for the entire team. So one of the amazing mechanics, really, really good mechanic, I took for granted when we were playing, was that the closer the players stay, your shields basically remain topped up and regenerated. The further you go away, that shield displaces, and you're easier susceptible to damage then.
Definitely,
yeah. So that one basically just cuts your shield straight away and can help larger spawns of enemies just swamp you and decimate you. We learned that the hard way as well. There's a few other ones as well. There's a snare drum, which will increase the speed of all enemies. We have I think it's a snow globe. It lowers the gravity in specific rooms,
Amazing.
But it can only be used one of them can only be found in the final of hotfix. So it actually can be a bit beneficial to the players rather than having to navigate zip lines or cart barrels across. You can aid the player. Yeah, exactly. And then you have your traffic light, which will regulates the player's movement. So if it's a red light, if you're moving, you'll take damage unless you break line of sight with the traffic lights.
Very Squid Game. Very Squid Game.
Yeah, very Squid Game as well. There's just a few other ones as well, like a giant stapler, which buffs the enemy, gives them health and armor and stuff basically as well. So, in typical Control fashion, it's the weird and wonderful. It's the mundane items that do the worst damage, I suppose.
And they're just floating around in the levels. That's the worst bit as well. Like when we found the weapon, before we found the weapon, we were being harassed by these objects. They were just coming around like gloating in front of us. The second Darren found they just went off and hid in a corner, so you couldn't find them because they just blend in with the rest of the items. It's just it's a nice little addition that they've got in there. But there's almost like an intelligence to these corrupted items.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Now I don't know how much they randomly spawn in, or are they on like certain levels produce certain items, or is it completely randomized? So I'd be intrigued to play a little bit further and see what more corrupted items show up and just how it's going to bring the chaos into these runs, because that's essentially what Firebreak is. From the moment that lift opens to the moment you extract is just chaos, like organized chaos to a degree.
Definitely. I mean, I jumped into a random game on hotfix with 2 corrupted items, and they were 2 different items to the 3 that we saw when we were playing. It feels like they could all show up on any of the levels, is what I feel. It feels like.
Fantastic.
That might be wrong there.
So we had the opportunity. I think we must have played for about 3 hours or so yesterday.
It was close to, yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
and I think it's quite good because the class systems in this are quite nice, and they all have their own unique ability, and that's what helps, I think, lends itself to the bigger picture of what Firebreak is. So we have our fix kit, we have our jump kit, and we have our splash kit. So your fix kit, basically your main buff is that you can fix circuitry and electrics in one move, basically. Your jump kit can electrically charge, so anything that like generators and stuff like that need to be fixed, that can be done much quicker than, say, the splash kit, which evidently that was my job, and the splash kit's job seems to be soak the environmentals, soak the paper notes,
put the fires out. That's the big thing.
The fires out. I think, like we talked about how there isn't really a medic role in that. To a degree, I would say that the splash kit is the medic. The one thing I did notice in this game is not so much the enemies; it's the environmental damage. That seems to be the biggest problem. So to have someone on hand with their super soaker, just putting out fires and putting out people.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say it was many. I think when we did that really long run of like 40 minutes on that the hardest difficulty with all the corruption, I think I had like close to 30 reses because I was able to stop myself burning to death and then come and get you guys who had got caught in fire. So it was just, it's almost like a less than a medic. It's more of a self-survival mode, I suppose, is how I
look that's it. That's it. No, it was they coexist with each other really well. Like if a fix kit is away off on the other side of the map exploring something, I could as a splash kit go and try my hand at fixing a piece of equipment that is required. It will take 10 times longer, and you just have to do the shoulder or the bumper mini game.
I enjoyed the bumper mini game. It was
good. It was very, very good, to be honest. But yeah, everyone can do the job, but these role-specific characters, I think, just get those bits done that, as I say, one hit a good bit quicker then. Now, I'm trying to think, they all, like, as we go through the levels, it's collect samples, collect acquisitions, and basically you're collecting points to upgrade all of your gear, because I think we played it at level 1. Yes, we played it with as minimal cursed items and stuff as possible. Your guns are basic, and your primary weapon, I suppose we'll call them, are pretty basic as well. So your water cannon could only use charged shots, whereas I think further in the levels you go, you can purchase a hand crank, or you can purchase buffs to make it shoot other things than water damage. You can like shoot electricity, or you can shoot fire or whatever like that. I know there's a few other buffs as you go further. It's not a game, I think, to go into the hardest difficulty with the bare bones equipment.
You'd think.
No, I think it. I mean, we did go into the hardest difficulty with bare bones, and we managed to. We extracted, so it's possible.
We did.
But I think you have to be with a coordinated group for that to work. The leveling up, as you said, is really good. Like perks and other abilities unlock as you go up in level, so you get XP for each level, don't you? Then you can spend acquisition points on basic sort of perks and basic equipment, but then you get the research samples, which allow you to make your perks better. But there's like 6 different research perks currencies.
This is what I really liked about the upgrades. There's 5 of them, because there's 1 per level. And what is required for each perk is random. So like we were digging through them end of when we were playing last night, and like we had 30 samples from the 5th level. No, the hotfix. So I was like upgrading the stuff from hotfix, and it's like, oh, now you need 10 of the ground control samples. So I know, okay, I can go into ground control because it will specifically have those samples I need the upgrade for. So you can like target what you're looking for. It's not like Helldivers where you need the rares and you just have to hope you
generic.
Find them. Yeah. This level has this sample. Okay, I'm going to go play that level, get that sample to upgrade this.
Yeah, because I'm just
looking. I'm looking at like the research skill tree on this, and the first one that come across is like the side hustle perk, which allows for like the faster reload. It has like a tier, so the more samples you collect, it starts off as weak, which just is your basic perk, and then the stronger and then resonant obviously then applies to. I see the strong basically must be a faster reload time again, and then resonant seems to apply to the group as a whole. Then so it looks like. There's a little icon above the resonant box, and it has multiple people on it. So it looks like certain perks can be used group wide, which is quite nice.
That's really cool.
I mean, there are definite perks. Like the ones on the far side, on the right-hand side, are all perk-based ones. So I've started investing in for the whole team to be able to be further apart to keep their shields up and stuff like that. So it's choosing, but that's why it works playing with people because you can make complementary skill trees. You jump in with randoms and they're just all, if you're playing with a bunch of
they're
singles,
going to do their own thing. Yeah.
That's the
I think that's what you said earlier. You had that problem. You jumped into a lobby and they were all off in their own separate directions. And then basically when you're swarmed, you have to traverse an entire map to find that person to then have to revive them, which I will talk about. The revive system on this is a good old pat on the back and a good old slap across the head to get you.
Yes, rub some dirt in your wound, get back up there. But you do get a number of lives to just respawn as well. So if there is someone not going to get there in time or that sort of thing, and that's what you find in single player. You run halfway across the map to go get them, and they decide to redeploy, and you're like, well, now I'm trapped with all the bad guys by myself, and you're back in the safe room.
Before I jumped on the game with you two, I went on just to have a quick trial run because the game, to its detriment, kind of just says get on with it.
Yeah,
I got into a drop with another player. I went straight to the objective marker just to kind of figure out what it was I was doing. He went the complete opposite direction. There were no enemies that direction. There was no anything that way. I think he just fancied himself a little explorer into the universe there. So immediately I was like, well, you are no use to me. So I just ducked out and was like, oh, Josh and Darren are online. Let's go do that instead. So definitely like it's all well and good to just drop in and play with a group of randoms, but I think the game is very much tailored to play with a party that you know and trust.
Yeah, this was a definite game.
3-person.
Yeah, where
This is it.
we did our first run of it, and like we picked our kits and we were just off exploring, and I think we did like a clearance 3 one and ended up failing it. But then we went back in it, actually doing the roles properly. Like I think Tomahawk would come along and do
sticking
all the
together.
Boxes, and I'd come along with the wrenching fix and stuff as well. And it went so much smoother because it is built for everyone to just be there, do your role, stick together, pick each other up, and it's not as hard as you'd think. You still go down a lot because there's a lot of enemies about.
Yeah.
But it's very easy to keep it rolling when everyone's there doing their job, keeping it moving.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Like this cooperative like element is so like at the forefront of its mission statement, I suppose. That like you go in, you need to be sticking together. You like, especially when you have like the water tank and you have the jump kit.
Yeah.
You can combine those two together to create like radial damage on other enemies and stuff, and just sort of dole out, especially in the higher levels as well, just dole out more and more electric damage and just cover a broader area of hiss. It's a strange one because I see a lot of players complaining that it's not built for single player, and Remedy are like, why are you playing on your own?
I mean, to be fair, I've gone in on my own. And I've succeeded. Like it's been. I mean, I went in earlier today and did the trophy for not firing a gun at any point. So I was probably the problem of that in that one. But I went off and did all the fixing and did everything I needed to do whilst they were killing things, because I could trust randoms to kill things, so I could go off and just go and do the points I need to. The way I'm treating if I'm playing solos, I'm playing it like you're playing Call of Duty and you're the only person going on the control points. You're doing your bit, expecting to die, but you still know what you're meant to be doing, so there's no point getting frustrated because the others will just do shooting. And that's fine, you know, but yeah, it's definitely something to team up. And let's be honest, for the past 6 years, they've expected you to have a group of 3 friends to play games because that's how all multiplayers are set up now.
Well, so
you should have together a couple of friends, or you've already got used to playing on your own. That's the way I look at it.
You should have found at least 2 gaming friends.
That's it. Yeah, if you don't have 2 gaming friends at this point, you are 100% the problem.
Yeah.
But it's a laugh because like Helldivers is sort of just past the year mark. It very much works as a 4-person. I feel as if you had to do that with 3 people or even 2 people, then the objectives just become like the map is so big it really demands the 4 people. Controls really, Firebreak should say, is a really interesting one because I think if you put a 4-player co-op environment into those maps, you're either on top of each other or you're clearing those objectives too quickly.
Yeah,
I know that Remedy came out and basically said, in your teams of 3, you should be doing clearance 1 in about 5 minutes. You should be doing clearance level 2 in about 15 minutes or so on a medium-ish difficulty, and clearance 3 on a harder difficulty should be 30 minutes plus, which I think we kind of hit the nail on the head for that. I think what really works about Firebreak in this 3-player aspect is that you're just stretched enough to manage everything with 3 people.
I think it's a good level for being stretched, and if one person is not playing their part, you feel that problem. There are games like I suppose like Back for Blood or things like that where one person can be off dicking about, but as long as 3 of you are back on doing what you need to do, you're okay. Same with Helldivers. I think you can get by with just 3 people in Helldivers for the most part. As long as you're being competent, and this game rewards that wonderfully. Like you work so well, and also the fact you drop everything and have to go pick it up if you do die. It's you know where, and there's no markers. You have to be communicating with people to have that awareness of what's going on. Also finding health points because they're not marked up on the map. You have to like ping them and tell people where those are. Those towers.
The active search for it as well, because it's not just a case of a health pickup. It's not just a case of like here's a cash drop. It's go find a station, go turn the station on as well, which was a really good thing. And that's the chemical shower. It's the decontamination, which is what actually brings your health back up again. And then you have your ammo cache, which is just it's a smash and grab, particularly with those mini games. And it is just I think, Josh, you did say it's like all I can hear is frantic tapping at the ammo stations. It's like you always can tell, especially in a party chat, that someone's going to be on restocking, which it was a system I didn't see coming, because you could have easily have just held square and then you're fully restocked. I quite like, and it adds to the frantic sense that Firebreak brings to the multiplayer shooter, I think.
Yeah, I like as well in that though that you can bail out at any time as well. So if you're doing the ammo mini game and you're struggling, you can pick up like enough and be like, yeah, I'm just going to mess this up now if I keep trying and someone's attacking me, so I need to run.
There is the option to pick up ammo as well with a square button, though. They do drop little blocks of ammo around the place, but you're never going to. But
it is very much a blink and you miss it, though. I think, especially if you're in the quote unquote safe house, like that kind of. I sort of think of it as that Left 4 Dead, Back 4 Blood, like a holding room. The enemies can still get you, and this is what I think is like quite good about like this in terms of Left 4 Dead, Back 4 Blood. The enemies nearly have to have line of sight on you before they can actually attack you. I noticed that we were hiding as such in one of these cache rooms, and we had a whole load of hiss just run straight past the room. They weren't naturally gravitating towards the player. They weren't just instinctively programmed to chase the human player. You nearly had to make yourself go, hello, hiss, I'm over here, and then you're bombarded with like 50 enemies on the one screen. Then
I think they've managed the enemy AI feels right in there as well. And also what I noticed when I was playing on my own, away from everyone else, I was off trying to find the thing to go destroy the corrupted items. So I was trying to find that weapon. Yeah. So I was running back through the level, and they spawned a bunch of enemies near me, like, hey, you're in the wrong location, not helping your friend, so take a bit of punishment. So they pushed me back the right way, which I quite like, because I thought that was a nice little touch they had in there.
Oh, that's good, because like most games could easily just go, oh, you've cleared this area, and then leave it as just an empty scape. So that's really good to hear that they're not being rewarded for going and looting elsewhere.
Yeah.
But what I will say is, like, obviously we go through like the clearance level. So at the end of each level, you open up the next section. Basically, it's what we thought was a countdown that you had to survive. No, it was the enemy tracker.
Yes.
So it was when we noticed the number was shooting up in massive increments that we're like, this isn't a timer. This is. I think it was like, how many corrupted are here? It's like, or hold the door for like 400, and we're like, what, 400 seconds? It was like, no, 400 enemies.
Yes, yeah. It was that fear on that last one, wasn't it? Like, oh, cool, right, that's quite high, 120, and then it jumped to 450, and we're like, well, okay, I guess we're just gonna have to try and survive.
And then it's not so much like that number going down, because like the enemies, as bullet spongy as they are quite easily shifted. It's when then the big type font comes up and it's like special infected or like harder enemy, basically as clear as they advertise as that, and then you get like Dominic Santiago with a big yellow health bar.
Yes.
And you're like, right, I have to fight this. He's a tank type character with a minigun, but he doesn't look much different from the normal enemy. He just takes a lot more damage to deal with.
Yeah.
And that's what the one thing I did enjoy about Control is that these bosses as such were just had normal names. They weren't like, oh, here's the Juggernaut, or here's like Death Merchant 64 or something like that. They just were these normal
Frank
dudes.
from accounting.
Just,
exactly.
Yeah. Go fight Big John. That'll do. Yeah,
he'll do. Yeah.
He's normal. He was a cool guy once.
What I did enjoy, to be fair, about fighting them as well was the different weapon options it gives you. Because like you start off with, I think, the little machine gun, the shotgun,
the Tommy gun, the shotgun, and it's like either a sawn off or it's a normal like long barreled shotgun as well.
Like they're both good in their own way. And then you can unlock like revolver pretty quickly. You can unlock the bolt action pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And, like I shifted over to the bolt action, which feels like it would be worthless playing on my own.
So quickly,
but
though.
In like a group setting, you can take out heavy enemies with one like headshot.
Yeah.
So if I have someone else with a Tommy gun taking out like the little ones, I can just ping heavies and like beat the boss ones you're talking about in like 4 shots. But that's that team aspect as well. Like, you can have someone crowd control, you can have someone picking off the heavies, you can have someone like dousing them with the water cannon to try and slow them down a bit. It gives you different options of how to approach it. You're not just mindlessly shooting everything.
I did feel though at those lower, particularly at these lower levels, and also forgetting in between matches to buff the weapons and add the perks to the player, is that the pushback. The main weapons have a pushback and they're like main feature. So the jump kit can electrocute them, or if you hold the left trigger, you can. What I was using to rocket ride, essentially, you can use them to push back your enemies.
Yeah,
I find that at the early doors levels, they're so weak, and I think you forget that those weapons even exist, and we're straight onto the Tommy gun, or we're straight into the revolver or the bolt action. Once you unlock a tier 2 weapon, you do feel invincible pretty quickly. I feel as if, like, I had the revolver, you had the bolt action, you were taking off heavies in one hit. I was walking around and taking like 3 hits out with one magnum round.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you get humbled pretty quickly when you are at the end of, what was the name of the level? When you're at the end of Hot Fix and you're trying to move barrels from one side of the room to the other, and then just being dumped on by like 50, 60 enemies at a time, while also having to deal with the environmental damage on it as well. Like, the game does this incredible thing about keeping your head on a swivel at all times. Yeah. And then obviously we get our early doors. There's going to be a few drastic sort of frame rate drops and a few shaky moments there. I feel as if at one point there was just 200 enemies all just sort of spawned on top of each other at the same, like, their same hitbox.
Yeah. And you took the brunt of that, because you definitely were like, we all went frame rate, and then you were in the middle of the room down trapped.
It was I'm not gonna lie, it was a hard experience, especially when you're in such a awkward part of the map where I was levitating and basically was like, I can't expect these guys to come and revive me. I'm just gonna have to drop out. And it has a nice wee feature, like Helldivers, like reinforcements, and you do get your support from Frank, I want to say, on the radio. He's like, I'm talking to the guys upstairs, and we're trying to get more volunteers your way, so just hold the line, basically. Like, he offers these like terrible words of encouragement because he knows that he's not on the front line.
Yeah. I did really enjoy that bit of characterization. Whereas, like, we're just trying to hire more people, red tape, you know? You're like, that's fun.
And the whole bureaucratic side of things, just do what you're doing, guys, it's okay.
Well, it feels like that, because it's set in the Control building, it's set where Control is, it's set in there. It feels like they're just trying to get office workers, which is why they're wearing such rubbish stuff. They just found it in the cleaning closet. So it's just other office workers that they're sending down there just to do it. And it's taken a while to recruit more people to be willing to come down.
This is the laugh. I was like, in my research for this episode, I had a quick look at what Remedy have officially put out for the context of the game and where it sits on the timeline as such. This is set 6 years after the events of Control. So I don't know if it's bad office management, or in certain side missions in Control, they just go, let's just close that section off and never speak of it. I have a feeling that this is what's kind of transpired in Firebreak, that they've went, we have this hiss problem. Shall we just close this part of the bureau and let them figure it out? And then other stuff has obviously happened for this fire team to come in and fix everything.
What's interesting is they've obviously announced that there's a Control 2 coming. They haven't said when it's coming. It's potentially next year. It might be the year after. But maybe this is a lead-in to what Control 2 is going to be. It's just another buy-in to what it is. But as you said, this is a first-person shooter, which is interesting because every other Remedy game has been a third-person, over-the-shoulder action game.
Story-driven.
I think they worked on Crossfire, I think, which was something that they worked on but wasn't their own game. But that is like their only first person. So if they get people in and interested in Control, they're going to be shocked when they get to Control 2, unless Control 2 is going to be very different and a first-person action game, and they're just going to move away from what they normally do.
But I think what we've done is we've talked about an awful lot of the game modes. We've talked about what we've liked about the game. There is a few. This is the part I don't quite like to do, especially for a game that is so new. We kind of have to talk about some of the dud moments in the game. Then there is one thing. It's not so much a Remedy problem. It's kind of more of a me problem, and I love a good bit of exposition. And the one problem I did have is aside from the setting, aside from the hiss, because I'm aware of that and I'm aware of Control, I would have liked to see a little bit more feeding into that. And I get where Remedy are coming from. They want accessibility. They want players to just be able to pick up and go and not have to question it. I would have loved, maybe I'm being a bit harsh on this, I would have loved some sort of Helldivers type tutorial, a little bit tongue-in-cheek, kind of going like, you're the Firebreak team, you are our first and last line of defense, and here's a bucket and spade, go figure it out.
Look, they show you getting picked up from the office upstairs. They put you in your suit.
Yeah. Even for new players, here's a brief overview of the hiss, or even kind of what Remedy like to do. Even in Alan Wake 2, you have the Alan Wake recap, or you have the ability to have a narrative recap. I felt that it's a bit too detached, and it kind of took me out of the Control. It could equally have just been anywhere and not attached to Control whatsoever, and it just feels like a three-player co-op extraction shooter.
I agree with that. I think I don't think a tutorial would be difficult for them to put in there. I don't know how you do a tutorial thing unless you just do like an offline first. As soon as you go in, here's an offline mode for you just to play once.
Yeah.
Part of me thinks that they were going to put in little clips, little vignettes that they'd have made, sort of cinematics as like a lead-in. But I don't know if publishers are hesitant to do that now following the failure of Concord, which whole thing was telling story through these vignette things. Also, it's costly to make little... It sounds awful, but it's costly to make these sort of...
throwback moments,
these cinematics for them. And they got to weigh up, is it worth it, or is this just a game that we managed to make for quite cheap to put more money in so we can make things like Control 2 that aren't going to make the money?
I did see the budget for this one. The budget, I think, was in and around the $20 million, $25 million range as well. So it's not grand scheme of things, it's a relatively cheap game.
It's a cheap outing, yeah.
And then with their price points and stuff, I think it was like £30 as well. So £30, it's good value for what the game is. I personally felt I wanted a little bit more immersion. Maybe just as here's the beauty. Like, Remedy do this incredible thing about their in-world storytelling, be it in the Alan Wake games where it's like the Twilight Zone episodes, or in Control where it's all the Bureau, like dark tapes, basically, where they're doing all their black site stuff. A little bit of something like that, or even because they've clearly gone for this like slapstick tongue-in-cheek approach to Control and the hiss and everything there. Something a little bit more light and jovial, kind of like how Fallout does the specials. If they did something like that as a tutorial video to new players, that probably would have sold it for me a little bit better.
They could have at least had something for you to find in levels, like information, like audio recordings, that sort of thing, to get more lore if you wanted it.
Yeah. No collectibles.
Like it's a small gripe, but I think that people who are playing Remedy games are playing Remedy games for the narrative, and they're playing it for nuggets of information. And I quite liked the Darling tapes and the Darling videos from Control. I thought that sold it give you a bit of the mystery of the Bureau and what the Bureau do. That yes, the Bureau is supposed to be in the shadows and operates secretly, and you're not supposed to know what they do. But I would like the idea of even just to explain to a new player what an AWE is. Small things like that, I think.
It's going to be interesting. Me and Darren are actually going to be hopefully playing some more of this tonight with my sister, who's got no experience of any Remedy games. So it's going to be interesting to see what her experience is going into this without any prior knowledge. Because
Yeah, I think that'll be the true test as well. Because I know for a fact that Lova, as much as he wanted to do this episode and wanted to play this game in depth, I know that this game will frustrate him because he's not a big Control fan anyway. He likes certain elements. He doesn't like the map, which would be another thing in the map layouts for this game is what annoys me. It's not well. They're well designed, but they're nearly too well designed. They're too much of a labyrinth, and it's quite easy to hit a wrong turn on this. But I know that a game like this, Lova would definitely be playing it for the 1 to 2 hours that he would need to, and then would immediately go, I'm done, I'm out. Is there anything, guys, that you think that just maybe has it's very early doors? I understand we have been playing this game for 24 hours, so it's quite hard to make these leaps straight off the bat. But is there anything that possibly stuck out for you that might not sit right for you in terms of like how this game's going to perform in the future then?
I don't know how, it sounds awful, I don't know how much longevity there is to it. I mean, we played for 3 hours and we managed to beat it on the hardest difficulty.
Yeah.
I'm not on the hardest, we did it on normal difficulty, but on the top,
top clearance level,
top clearance and all that sort of thing. So that's the concern I have.
As Josh decides to have a coughing fit, I fully going to back that choice there. It's where's there's going to be such a finite amount of replayability to this game. It's there, it's fun. I think once you get past that, are you going to just lose interest unless you're only stuck on one player class? Is it doing the grind to get all the player classes mastered, or is once you've mastered it on the highest clearance level with the highest corruption level, where does the fun go from there then?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could see them trying to add more like levels, but there's only so much control to draw off of. Eventually, you run out of source material to make new levels out of.
Although I could see them splitting into Alan Wake 2, potentially moving into Max Payne. You can bring those other worlds into this because they are still Control workers you're trying to be using. So what's to say they are using stuff?
Is Max Payne canonically in the Control universe?
No, it's not. But we can pretend it is.
We could do crossover. I mean, like we're well in the realm of crossover events on every live service platform. I'm sure Helldivers did their Killzone crossover. I think that's the one worry that Helldivers did say, and I remember this clear as day. The second that you do a crossover event in a game like Helldivers, the game you've crossed over with becomes canon in that universe, and it's very hard to maintain that throughout. So I would like to see, a bit more level variety. I think there was an awful lot of, unless the fact that I've played Control, I'm aware of some of these locations like the mine, the furnace, and the main office block.
Yeah.
These are would just be generic cut and paste levels to a completely new player. And I think it nearly kills itself in the crib by going, especially to new players, and make this accessible. It's so Control, as you're saying. I think that's going to put off players, in my opinion.
They did the right thing for making this on PS Plus and Game Pass, though, because they've probably recouped a lot of their initial costs. So whatever they do is going to be good for them. That's probably the way
exactly.
I think so.
It's an interesting one. Obviously, it's very early doors, and I do wish it to be successful. I probably, as long as there are players willing, as long as there is a fan base, and I think players loyal to that fan base will keep it alive. And I think being the ruthless live service industry that we're in at the minute, this. You never want to think about it like that, but this could be one of those games that in 2 weeks' time it's going to have like 400 players, and that'll be it.
That is the concern, definitely.
But we've discussed our positives, we've discussed the negatives. What we'll do is we'll take a little break here. We'll gather our thoughts, and we're going to put FBC Firebreak on the patented high scores, high stakes S to D tier list. So we'll take a quick break here and we'll reconvene then. So, Darren, Josh, we have dried the well of everything that is FBC Firebreak. The only thing I need to ask you guys now is where does it sit? We've took all the bad, all the good into consideration. We now need to ask you where it's going to sit on the high scores, high stakes, game of the month tier list, ranking it from S to D tier.
Just out of interest, because I can't remember, does this get tallied against other games you've had in your tier list, or is it its own separate tier list that we just feel for it?
So I think just in isolation of this game, we're going to go, where does it stand? Haven't played it as
How would
in
you
depth as
grade
we
it
have.
yourself?
Yeah.
Darren, do you want to go first? Because I'm concerned I'm going to go too harsh.
Josh hasn't got an answer now.
With it. I am going to give it. I'll give it a B. I'm going to give it a B. I really like what it's doing. I think it feels great. I worry about it getting stale quite quickly. And I do agree with some of those problems. Yeah. I think it has some issues explaining itself sometimes. I think some of the maps are a bit over-designed. But it is fundamentally just fun. It's just enjoyable to play. It's fun to play through. The team dynamics are great. I could see it jumping up with some additional content, some tweaking. Maybe we really got a killer mission. It's the poster one is great, but it's basically shooting a big event as you walk in circles.
It is. It's a weirdo because it's not necessarily saying that B is bad. B tier, we've had plenty of fun B tier games in our time here, but yeah, something like an event or a new big bad or something, or a new AWE that can be introduced somehow. Yeah. I think would just give it a bit of juice and a bit of life. We're talking, this is really early doors in the game's life cycle as well, so we do seem to be talking as if this game's going to go offline tomorrow. That's not the case.
I was wrestling in AB.
Say that.
Unless on the 1st of July they announce that Firebreak's gone permanently offline, then everyone's
getting refunded.
Die.
Oh, don't give us another
Not again.
I can't go through it again. I'll end up having one trophy remaining and it'll go offline.
I was wrestling A versus B. But I think it being 5 missions, it being a bit sort of light on the ground, I think puts it in that B tier.
Yeah, that's fair. That is absolutely fair. Josh, where are we thinking? We've had a few minutes to digest.
Funnily enough, I was with Darren. I was tussling between A and B. The A is definitely a recency bias, though. You're I really enjoyed that. I've been thinking about going back and playing that today. I want to keep playing it. I've really enjoyed what I've done with it. But then in my heart, it's not as good or as well-rounded a game as a game like Helldivers, which is somewhere between an A and an S. It's not as, it's not... Alien Fireteam, for example, I would say is potentially a better game than this because it's got a very clear universe and it works out. So I'm probably putting this as B because this is almost switch-off silly fun. I'm not invested in what I'm doing. And that's the problem. I haven't got that sort of level, even with Helldivers, where you're not exactly invested because it is for Super Earth, but you become part of that universe. You're you're saluting people, you're shouting for Super Earth, you're doing all these sort of things. Whilst this, I'm just going to smack this man with a wrench because he's in my way.
That's
it. That's just the way it is. So yeah, B tier is where I sit on it.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the rare occasions on Game of the Month that we come to a complete consensus on this. I think whenever I played that first mission and then as we got further in, I was just this is absolutely a B tier game. It's not to say that Remedy have missed the mark. I think this is a lovely risk that Remedy have done to create a first person shooter live service game. It is going to have teeth and issues. I think the basic package that has been released is going to cause a bit of discourse with the community. I think the ability to sort of perk your player, your abilities and your team buffs and stuff like that as the level progression, it does get more fun, and I will give it that. But as you say, Helldivers hit the mark, but I think Helldivers hit the mark so well nobody saw it coming, and I think as the live service game industry has kind of developed and everyone's trying to find the next Helldivers, there's nearly an unattainable standard for this, and I think no matter what happened, people weren't going to be pleased with what the end product was. I will keep at this game, and I think that
Definitely,
it is so much fun. Yes, I could probably gripe that the game needs to be, you need to be spoon fed a little bit of context or exposition, but that's purely a me problem. But a B tier is not a bad thing. I think there are plenty of fun B tier games in the world.
My feeling in this as well is that B is a very strong floor. Well, I think there is an A to S game in here, and like with a couple content drops with some like tweaks, it could be an A to an S. But it feels, as you say, like Helldivers hit the mark immediately, but Helldivers had like 20 to 30 stratagems. I had all the different planets, I had all the different mission styles.
Helldivers as well does a thing where it tells a story outside of the game as well. So I don't know if you guys follow like the Helldivers Super Earth Twitter page.
I did for a bit. Yeah.
You get your story beats, you get your Super Earth news reports from that. So they've created something that like transcends the game itself. Whereas if you're into Control, if you're into Remedy, it's pretty self-contained, and it's not a niche fan base, but it's very eclectic fan base. So that's going to be the Remedy people are going to stick to the Remedy stuff. So
it needs something like a Deep Rock where you've got like a random, everyone's working on a certain mission, we're all trying to get a certain goal, we need to do something like that. But to do that, it needs to develop some sort of story to make you want to do that. That's the thing.
That's it. I think it's going to come down entirely to if this, maybe in a year's time we'll re-review this, or in 6 months' time or something, and if this then bumps up, I think what's going to happen is Remedy are going to really have to pay attention, keep the ear to the ground in terms of fan service and addressing that pretty early doors. And I think with a bit of love and care and attention on this one, it could be a game that is there for the long haul, especially if you introduce new enemies, new AWEs, you introduce new levels and stuff like that. Even if you do a crossover, you have to go to the lake house and dispel a world event there. There is nearly an unlimited well for resource on this one, and you do hope that Remedy kind of grab it by the horns, really.
Yeah, for like a weird comparison, it gives me, I hope it develops in almost like a Payday style, where Payday 2 especially started with like its core group of like 6 missions and like 5 guns, and then every couple months it's like, here's 2 new missions, 5 new guns, like keep adding new research, keep adding new requisitions, keep adding new missions, and just sort of let it chug along. And occasionally be like, go back into hotfix, give it another go with like your new guns and your stuff, but also new mission, but also hotfix.
Yeah, sounds good. I think that's right.
No, that's it. No, so that kind of wraps everything up quite nicely. We've all gone for a B tier on FBC Firebreak. So what we'll do then is we'll go into the wrap up section. We'll do our housekeeping. We'll I'll not announce next month's Game of the Month because that is still TBC, to be honest. But yeah, we'll get our wrap-up section and we'll call it there, guys.
Cool, sounds good.
So that is everything, gentlemen. Firebreak is all wrapped up. We're done. We don't have to talk about it anymore. We are going to continue playing on it because we love and support Remedy. We'll just do a little bit more housekeeping here, just for those who skipped it at the very start. If you've enjoyed what you've listened to, do give highscoreshighstakes.com a look at. That'll take you to where we are everywhere on the internet, be it Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and our Discord server. If you haven't shared the podcast with a friend or family member, please do so now. All of our analytics say you are listening to this on a phone, so you have no excuses at this point. Darren, Josh, thank you again for stepping up. This has been an absolute pleasure to talk about this game. Have you anything you want to plug? I know, Darren, you're not so active on the Twitch space these days, but Josh, anything to call out and plug?
Just Twitch, I suppose, is all I'm doing at the moment, which is disc_count. So DiscCount, stream 3 times a week. Sundays is Neo at the moment. Mondays is a random multiplayer game, and Tuesdays is Varia Tuesdays, so it's any old game. So yeah, they're 8 p.m. and 2 p.m. respectively on a Sunday.
Perfect. Well, yes, I'll stick all that in the episode description. Josh, anything you want to plug? Or Darren, sorry, I should say, anything you want to plug? Old discount episodes?
I occasionally post platinums on Instagram. Please talk to me about games. I just like talking about games, guys. Please talk to me. No, I've been thinking about like starting over. So I'm moving soon. I'm getting a new space, So maybe I'll start up. We'll see.
No, we'll keep an eye on that, definitely. It's the discount void needs filled. I think in my schedule, I have missed some of the fight episodes. I do think, guys, you should need to make like a "Where Are They Now" kind of episode.
Karis has moved 5 feet from the recording space. We've moved.
Yes.
But yes, thank you guys. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for having the chat about FBC Firebreak. I've had an absolute blast as always. Josh, you're getting close to the resident host spot, and with it a High Scores High Stakes guest mug at this stage. We'll have to figure something out for that in the near future.
I'm getting close to winning at this point. I've almost got as many points as you do, Tomahawk.
Well, we shall get something organised for that in the near future then, Josh, absolutely. But yes, that is everything we need to say and discuss here. I will see you all next week for our Federal Bureau of Control Firebreak Challenge episode. Now that I have a clear view of how the game scores the missions, bagging these 3 points. I know, no, I'm not going to say that because I've jinxed myself. So
we saw how Astrobot went, yeah.
We will not talk about Astrobot. What we will do is we will call it there, and we will see everyone again next week. In the meantime, I have been Tomahawk. This has been High Scores, High Stakes, Game of the Month Club. Take care. Love you all. Bye.